What's up? Welcome back to the Being in a Band podcast. I'm joined by two very special guests today, Bree Noble and Katie Zaccardi, who you may be familiar with if you've heard their interviews on the Being in a Band pod before, but I've never had them on together, so I'm very, very excited. It is just going to be a party. So Katie and Bree, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks
you.
For having us.
We're excited.
So if the listeners haven't heard your episode with me before, I would love for you to do just a brief introduction on who you are and what you do, maybe starting with Katie.
Sure. So I'm Katie Zaccardi. I am a business coach for musicians, music industry coaches, and teachers, helping them grow their businesses and their bank accounts. And I work with musicians at all levels, but what Bree and I are really going to talk to today is musicians who are looking to start to grow and scale their business and increase their streams of income. And that's really my favorite thing to do because it's super exciting to work with women primarily is who I work with, but people in general, musicians in general, to help them go from like starving artist in scarcity to empowered, wealthy musician.
Yes, I love that so much. I'm so excited to dive in. So Bree, over to you.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be back on the show. I am the founder of The Profitable Musician, and I am a musician as well. I have been working with musicians for several years to help them increase their streams of income, to help them find their 1,000 fans, release their music. So I help them do a lot of different things. But one thing I've been focusing on a lot lately, which is why I'm getting together with Katie here, is that I love to help musicians find new streams of income that are based around the expertise, experience, knowledge that they already have. And as Katie said, like help them really scale maybe things that they're doing on a smaller, with a smaller group or individuals, and be able to make that a bigger stream of income to help them have more stability in their business. So I'm really excited to be talking about this today because for me, I've run a course, a membership, like all kinds of different coaching models in my business. And it has really helped me create stability in my business, as well as I've been able to help other musicians do the same thing. So we're excited to talk about this.
Yes. And just so you both know, this is actually such perfect timing because I recently have gone officially full-time into my biz. I mean, I was pretty much there last year. Yeah, I was pretty much there last year because my business income was trumping my day job income, which I was kind of just holding on as like a security blanket. But yeah, as of recently, I'm now like full-time. Like I have like several different streams of income. So this is just such good timing and it's something I'm so passionate about. And I think all musicians who like are approaching music seriously have this entrepreneurial streak. And you guys obviously help them access that. So very, very excited.
Wow, this is really new because I just had you on my podcast like 2 months ago and you hadn't quit your job yet. So that's super exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I had because I basically wasn't doing any work for my day job anyway. So I was kind of like manifesting it and speaking as if anyway, because it honestly felt like that. And it's so funny because I was talking to someone recently and I thought that it would feel like this crazy, like big leap, like, oh, whoa, like she's so crazy. But it didn't at all. It feels like this is like the natural state that I'm meant to be in. And the day job was the weird, like, thing that I was just doing for a while, the unnatural component to my life. So it just feels like completely normal.
That's amazing. I remember when I was about to quit my job and my boss pulled me into his office and he was like, "Hey, is everything okay? We noticed you've been like a little off lately." And I was like, "I'm going to tell you in 2 weeks that I'm leaving."
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I didn't actually say that, of course, but it was funny because I was like, oh, this is weird. He's noticed, like, I obviously had a shift in energy as I'm preparing to, like, leave and start my business. But Doesn't it feel so good when you finally do? It's amazing.
Yeah, I had a similar instance in one of my first jobs just before I was about to quit that job. And the CEO came up to me and was like, "Hey, you're working late. Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, everything's fine." I was young and I didn't know how to express myself back then. It was a little bit of a different situation, but little did he know I was there late because I was typing my resignation letter. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So just say the listeners listening to this are like us and have that entrepreneurial streak, and they're kind of in a job at the moment that they're not happy with, and they see what the three of us are doing in terms of structuring our own days, having the freedom to tour or to record at the drop of a hat without asking a boss for permission. They want to start looking at bringing in new sources of income to their music business that isn't just from royalties or streaming or gigs or merch, those typical music income streams that everyone knows about. They want to start thinking outside the box. Where do you begin? Maybe Bree first.
Sure. So I always encourage people to keep their eyes and ears and mind open for questions that people are asking them. I know for me, when I was, a musician, a working musician, and I was building my fan base and I was able to tour and do certain kinds of concerts in venues that were like uncommon, I started having people asking me, well, how are you doing this? How come you don't have to perform at bars? How come, where did you find all these other kinds of venues that pay you? How are you showing up for shows that already have an audience? You don't have to bring your own audience. And so I had kind of, done all that out of like necessity, right? Because I needed to build my career and it took me a while to figure it out. And I didn't realize that this was something I could be helping other people with. And once I started realizing, gosh, it took me a long time to learn how to do this stuff. And I was struggling for a while. I realized it was something that I could then pass on to other people, cut that learning curve for them. I mean, heck, it took me like many years, right, to learn how to do all of that and trial and error. So if there are things that people are asking you questions about, maybe they're asking you, gosh, how do you, get such a good recording sound from your voice when you're recording on, on a recording from home, or how do you learn how to, get confident in your stage presence, or whatever it is. People see you doing something and they're like, man, I wish I could do that like them. And if they start asking you questions about it, that is a clue that you've got something that you can teach people and help them with that you might not even realize is valuable or that you could charge for, because either for you it came supernaturally, not supernaturally, it came very naturally to you, or because you learned it and were scrappy and figured it out, and then you just kind of forgot that journey. Sometimes when we get to a point where we're at a new level of knowledge, we forget what it took for us to get there, and that not everybody is at that level. So that's kind of where I recommend people start. I'd love to hear what Katie says about that.
I totally agree. And I just want to second that this idea that a lot of musicians, I think, have it in their heads that it's very much like, this is the path I'm supposed to take. And I remember asking someone once, or someone asked me or told me, like, I'm trying to grow on YouTube. What do I do? And I was like, well, why? Like, why are you trying to grow on YouTube? And she said, because that's how I heard you get signed by a label. And I was just like, first of all, no. But second of all, why do you want to get signed by a label? And a lot of times artists don't really know, and sometimes they do have a really clear path of what they want, and that's awesome. But sometimes they just feel like they're boxed into a specific stream of incomes or path that they're going to take. And so, looking like critically at your journey and your career and asking yourself, where have I really excelled? Or like Bree said, what's come easy to me? This can be a stream of income that, no, it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to pivot to being a full-time coach like the three of us are, but you can still use it as something that you add to your business that's really enjoyable, that comes easy to you because you've mastered it already, and that allows you to have that time and money freedom that you're likely craving as a musician without having to worry about, like, do I have enough fans to get money from streams, you know, do I have enough fans to buy the amount of merch I need to pay rent, right? Like things like that, which yes are like inherent to musicians, can sometimes be hard to really make work in your budget, to be honest with you, and the money and the freedom that you're desiring. And so when you start to integrate or think about integrating streams of income that include like coaching or teaching, which is what we're going to talk about today, you're able to actually make more with a smaller audience or make more with less effort, depending on the exact offer that you decide to go forward with.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about that in a moment because I think the biggest thing starting off is like, of course, everyone has a small-ish audience, unless you're already an established artist, of course. But, you know, for those, you know, listening to this podcast, they have small audiences. So I definitely want to dive into that. But I just wanted to also interject and say, I totally agree with you both that is a great place to start, because as you were speaking, I was reflecting on my own journey, and that's exactly where I started. I had people in my inbox asking me questions about social media, and these were musicians in my network and musicians I didn't even know sometimes, that I wasn't even friends with on Facebook. You know, they saw that I was working for a music magazine, managing their socials, and then all of a sudden, sometimes it happened every single day. And instead of answering the questions, I was like, right, I'm going to make a YouTube video about this. And then once I started making YouTube videos, then, you know, a band started approaching me to do some consulting. But it's like, it's so interesting how those clues, when you listen to them, kind of appear. So I couldn't agree more. Okay, so you're starting to get these clues. You're thinking about the skills that you have and what people are asking you, and kind of turning or monetizing those skills. So I get a lot of questions. I've gotten a lot of questions recently, as my partner's actually about to start. Well, he's just started his own business, and I've got friends that are wanting to start their own business. They're musicians as well. And I think a lot of people get stuck at where to start. They're kind of at the bottom of the mountain, and they're looking up and they're going, website, social media, I need to write a bio, I need an invoicing system, I need a logo. Oh my gosh, like what, la 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 la. Where do you start? What's your advice for those looking up at the mountain, Katie?
That's such a good question. And you're right. I feel like it's almost like a procrastination technique to be like, oh, let me get my logo. Let me spend 3 weeks deciding what my colors are going to be. And that is really not important. It's important, but it's not the most important, and you do not need it to get set up. The real things that you need to start coaching or teaching are an idea and an offer. So you need to figure out what it is that you want to teach, who you want to teach it to, and the vehicle that you're going to teach it. So are you going to do private coaching, group coaching, you know, membership, course? If you're just getting started, Bree and I tend to recommend one-on-one coaching. We actually have a quiz that'll help you figure out the offer that's the best fit for you. So you can go to katiezaccardi.com/quiz or profitablemusician.com/quiz, and that'll help you decide based on a couple different factors what is the right offer for you. But once you have those 3 things, the next step is really announcing it to the world. And so in order to do that, you don't really need a website. You know, you're probably on Instagram, or maybe you're on TikTok, and hopefully you have an email list, but if not, still no biggie. Pick the social network that you're on right now, make a plan to announce it to the world, and make a launch plan using the you know, social media assets that you have, and you're on your way. Now, Bree and I actually teach a launch plan that you should go through, because one big mistake that people will make is just sort of like plopping it out there and like making one post like, I'm a coach now, please hire me, and then like disappearing from the ethers and not actually like warming their audience up, effectively launching their offer and whatnot. But like, when you do break it down to the bare bones, you need an offer and you need to get your offer out there. And it really doesn't have to be complicated with the website or with any of that other stuff. Now, we could teach you how to do all of that. And again, it is important, but it doesn't have to be like overthought. Overthunk? Is that the word?
We're going to go with overthunk. I mean, Bree, like, why do you think that, I guess, people get so confused, you know, thinking about like, oh, I need a website or I need these things? I mean, aside from the procrastination, Like, why else do people get caught up with all these small details?
Well, I agree with what Katie said about the procrastination and perfectionism being a form of procrastination, or like we feel like, oh, we just don't have enough information, so we can't move forward. We need to do more research, all of that stuff. And I see many people getting stuck in that quagmire of like, I don't feel like I have enough information, so I can't move forward. But I would say that we tend to think that like no one's going to take us seriously, or they're not going to believe that what we have is valuable if we don't have like a fancy logo. I know I thought this in the beginning, like I need to have a fancy logo and it needs to look like a corporate-y, and people might, they need to think that I have this big company behind me because otherwise they won't think I'm a professional. And, coming out of the world of musicianship, that's what I thought a business was. And so that was one reason that I started the Female Entrepreneur Musician podcast, is I was like, either people think that, or they don't think that they're a business or an entrepreneur at all as a musician. So there's kind of like those two different camps. And what we want to really be is in the middle there, where we're like, okay, we know we need to act like a business. We know we need to think about these things, but we don't want to keep those things from having us move forward. I know when I started my membership, I didn't have anything. I think I had just gotten a logo for my podcast. Like that was it. I literally never ever created a logo for my Female Musician Academy. Like I don't actually think I have a logo for that, just because it wasn't a top priority. The top priority was, can I create something that helps my audience? Can I let them know about it? And do I need a logo to do that? No. I need to create a relationship with them, and I need to give them the information that shows them that what I have is something that can help them. And you don't need a logo to do that.
I'll also add that like it's easy as a musician when you are in like trying to gather up all the info, and even just listening to like your podcast or my podcast or Bree's, you get a slew of guests who are experts in different things saying, here's what you need to do to excel in this area. Here's what you need to do here. So you might be thinking like, but they told me that I need to have this in order to be good at social media or to do this. And like, yes, that might be true, but you also want to boil it down to like, what is your specific goal and intention, and what are the results you want? If the result you want is to bring more money in your bank account and effectively get your offer out there, then like having a pristine social media maybe isn't the number one priority. That can be the priority later down the line. Like we can fine tune and we can go there, but it's really just about deciding what are your priorities. And, if you're going to spend time launching something, that takes a lot of effort. So you want to really focus in on that.
Another form of procrastination that I've noticed comes up when, people are starting their business is particularly when they're thinking about one-to-one coaching, which is, you've both already mentioned that coaching is like probably the first product that you would launch if you're starting a business, because you don't need a big audience, because coaching is usually higher ticket and you need to convert less people to customers. But one thing I've noticed that repeatedly comes up when I speak to people about this is they ask, do I need a coaching certification? Like, how are people going to know that I'm an authority? And I don't have a coaching certification. Neither of the business coaches that I've worked with have a coaching certification, and they're making, one of them makes like over $1 million a year now. What are your thoughts on that?
You definitely don't need a coaching certification. I don't have one. I don't know if you do, Katie, but I don't.
I have been in the process of getting a life coaching NLP hypnotherapy certification, but that's not necessarily to like have the credentials so I feel legit. It's because I wanted to learn about those things. And there's no regulations in the coaching industry, not yet at least. So we have that to our benefit. It's really about experience.
Yeah, I think for me, when I look for coaches, when I have looked for coaches all along my journey, I was always looking for a person that had already achieved the specific results that I was looking to get. So if I want to, make my, be able to sing pop music better because I was a classically trained vocalist and I feel like I sound ridiculous when I sing pop music, I am going to go find the person I love the way that they sing the pop music and I am going to learn from them. Or if I want to write better songs, I'm going to find somebody that, I love their songs. It doesn't matter to me if they have a certification. In fact, I've taken songwriting classes from people that have certifications or are, accredited professors or whatever, but they don't write the kind of songs that I like, So it's all about finding the person that has gotten the results that you want. And that is what's going to attract me to them. So if you're starting a program, whatever, whether it's a one-on-one group coaching course membership, you are going to be looking to attract those people that want the result that that you can create for them. And a lot of times, that's a result that you got yourself. And you are kind of your own customer avatar, as you would say. And so it's really easy to get in touch with the kind of people that you want to attract because you might have used to be that person.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about all the different income streams that we can add to our businesses. I mean, for those of you listening, you would already be familiar with coaching because that's what I do. I help bands to launch their new music and to kind of get the attention of the industry. And coaching is really mentorship, I suppose, with strategy, with mindset, and that's what what Bree and Katie do also. So after one-on-one coaching, what are some other income streams that we can add to our business?
Yeah, so there's different types of offers that you can create. So one-on-one coaching would be working one-to-one with someone. Basically, you're working in a private setting with them. You have calls, maybe Voxer access, something like that. There's also group coaching, which is where you can really simply just get a group of people together and do the same thing that you would be doing in one-on-one coaching, but just in a group setting, which of course saves you time and allows you to make more money by being able to take on more clients. Now, there starts to become some crossovers in between these offers because, for instance, you can add a course onto your group coaching. So Bree and I are going to be running a round of Out to Launch, which is going to be a group coaching program with modules. So you'll go through the really, the system of how to launch your offer. You'll watch the videos and you'll get coached by us. Whereas a course on its own can be self-paced and it's just something that as a coach or as a teacher you would create. You're going to figure out what your framework is, and Bree can definitely talk more about frameworks. But you'll figure out what your framework is, you'll put it into your course, and you can kind of live launch it, but then once people get it in their hands, it's theirs, and you don't really have to do much. They can go through it yourself. And then lastly, there's a membership, which memberships can vary, of course, in exactly what you get, but generally speaking, it's going to be something that your members can join month to month, and in each month they'll get a training or two, maybe they'll get access to you or educational materials. Essentially, they're going to get things that will help them move forward in whatever area you are teaching or coaching on. So maybe Bree can share a little bit more about framework, but that's like the basic overview. And of course, like I said a little bit earlier, it will vary like where you're at in your career, your audience size, things like that will matter as to which is going to be the best fit for you.
Yeah. So frameworks, I love frameworks because it's a way to systematize what you teach. So, you may be thinking, well, I don't have a framework or I don't have a specific way I teach. Well, you probably do if you've been teaching anyone at all. And you just haven't kind of sat down and formulated it. I know for me, when I came up with my first framework, which was the musician's profit path for my membership, to kind of give them a journey of how they would go through building their fan base, I just had to sit down and think, okay, how did I go about this in my own experience? And how can I explain this to other people in a way that makes sense and puts things in a certain order that's step by step? The big thing with a framework is that it can be very step by step. And people know, what to expect, and they're kind of like going through it in a format that's, makes sense to them and they're able to see like themselves progress. So that is, you can have a framework in anything that you're doing. You could have a framework in one-on-one coaching. A lot of times people, when they first start out, they are just kind of feeling their way around their framework, testing it out with different students, getting it all formulated into kind of a streamlined way of thinking. So if you don't have a framework, that's okay. That's something that you can develop over time. But one thing about courses is it's really great to have a framework, because then people have a beginning and an end, and they know what to expect. They got everything step by step, and you lead them down a path that takes them to a specific transformation point that they're hoping to get at the end of the course.
Awesome. Okay, so people have so you've got your idea for what you want to teach. You realize that you don't need all these like fancy websites. You don't need a coaching certification. You just, are reflecting on your experience and reflecting on the framework of how you got to the place that you've gotten to. So how do you launch something?
What a loaded question.
It's a biggie.
And you know what? Actually, one thing I want to say before we move forward, I feel like a moral obligation to say, you don't need a coaching certification, but if you're thinking teaching something like voice, like if you're wanting to teach voice lessons, that's where and I know Bree, we start to get a little like, make sure you are properly qualified to do that, because it is a human instrument. You don't want to ruin anyone's voice.
Yeah, anything health related, I would say,
yes.
is like, if you're going to be like a personal trainer that trains like musicians to like rock music, maybe get like a certification for that. Anything that could like impact someone's like physical or mental health, I suppose.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so how do you launch? Well, there's really 3 phases to this, and this is something that Bree and I are actually going to be going over in our free challenge coming up in June. But you want to make sure that, like we've talked about, you're creating the right offer. And that goes a little bit deeper than just having the idea, because you do want to go through the phases of validating your offer and doing the market research. Then you want to warm up your audience. So before you actually put your offer out there, you want to spend some time on social media with your email list, warming up your audience to your offer. So being able to let them know it's coming, breadcrumb it, as well as putting content out there that actually gets them engaged, learning, and interested in the topic that you're ultimately going to be teaching or coaching on. And then when it comes to launching, there's a part to this where we recommend doing a pre-launch event, like a webinar or free challenge, which will kick off the launch. And once you're there, it is all about selling and sales mindset and sales strategy and confidently showing up to promote your offer. So that's the broad overview of what the launch process looks like.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that process is if you do all the marketing stuff right, if you're really dialing in your pre-launch and connecting with your audience, make sure you know that, who the right people are for your offer and how to connect with them. Then when you get to the selling part, that is like way low stress. Cause I know a lot of musicians are like, oh, selling. No, I don't like that. I don't like to do that. I have many musicians that I work with that they don't even like to talk about their merch table because they're so uncomfortable about selling. Yeah. But the good news is if you do the pre-launch and the launch right, the actual selling part is easy peasy, because it's just like, this is the transformation I can offer you. Are you the right fit or not?
Yeah. I mean, selling's just telling your audience that something is available that can solve the problem that they're having. It's like, once I flipped my mindset to think about selling in that way, it really, really helped, because I know that, Katie and I spoke when you were on the pod about, how to sell without being salesy and sleazy and being like, and I think that like, there's so many examples that we see probably, and you guys probably see every single day out there of like, bands and musicians selling the entire wrong way and trying to, push their vinyls onto an audience that's never heard of them through Facebook ads or like selling 100% of the time on socials. Oh man, I hate that so much. Or not selling. I mean, that's just as bad.
I saw a TikTok today where some girl was like, hey, musicians, I really love to wear band merch. I almost exclusively wear band merch. I love musicians, but here's the thing. You guys are not talking about it at all. And then when it's Bandcamp Friday, you come out and you say, oh, it's Bandcamp Friday, go buy my merch, and you don't even post a picture of your merch. So I'm left to go sift through all of your Bandcamp links and then decide what I want. And her point was like, could you guys just post a photo? And I actually have a stitch that I'm gonna post of it. Probably it'll be up by the time this this podcast is out, but it's like, it's actually so much more than just posting the photo. Like, you should be wearing your merch, promoting it consistently, talking about it. Like, that is really having a confident sales strategy as an example in the context of merch. And it goes so far beyond just like the little things. But you'd think the little things were self-explanatory. Apparently they're not.
Yeah, I saw, like, I've seen bands recently just posting, hey, we've got new music out, and they have this beautiful graphic, like, frankly, that they're posting, but then there's like no links. And I know that, Facebook kind of doesn't like when you direct people off its platform, but you can obviously not obviously, but you can just sponsor the post and get around it. But there's no links, not in the body, not in the comments. And that girl that you talked about, she's a rarity. Like, most people, like 99.99999% of your audience will not be bothered to like sift through and make that effort to Google your merch site in order to find what you have for sale. Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
And the moral of the story here is that you want to make selling really easy for your potential client or student. And that means that this is why the pre-work before you actually go to, say, carts open or apply now, it is so important, because you want to make sure your audience is warmed up. They're starting to know about the offer before it's even available. And by the time you do launch, you're really, really clear as to like what it is, who it's for. And the people who are an ideal client for that offer are already thinking in their heads that they might want to get in on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love, so, if you haven't already picked up on it, Katie and Bree are launching a group coaching program called Out to Launch that teaches all this stuff in depth, and will take you through step by step of how to actually add more revenue streams to your music business. So that's a very exciting. And what's cool is this is your pre-work. So as you are about to teach this in a more formal setting, I mean, we can kind of track what you guys are doing in terms of promotion for your course that teaches how to launch a product.
It's very meta, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
showing
Inception.
them what they need to be doing when they're doing it. So
exactly. So you're doing the pre-work now by like coming on podcasts, including the Being in a Band pod, and you're about to do a free training. So Bree, can you tell us about the free training that we can sign up for?
yeah, that's going to be a free challenge. We'll have a private Facebook group. We'll both be teaching in there every day. It's a 3-day challenge, and we're going to be taking you through the steps of launching your offer. So, like Katie said earlier, figuring out what your offer is, what the best offer is for you. And just a reminder, you can take our quiz that we created as kind of like a pre-launch thing, to help you feel super confident when you come into the challenge, knowing exactly what the best offer is for you based upon your interests, your audience, your goals, all of that stuff. And then we're going to take you through how to get your audience ready, and then the actual launching part. So it's going to be super fun, super interactive. You get both of us as coaches, which I think is super cool. I don't think I've been in a program like this where I got 2 coaches. So it's great because, we have different perspectives. We've done similar things, yet different things. We're from different generations. Like it's cool. I really like that we have, a really all-encompassing kind of experience with 2 coaches.
Yeah, and I'll leave the quiz link down below, as well as how you can sign up for that free challenge. Who is this for?
Great question. Well, it's really for any musician who is looking to start to branch into coaching or teaching, or even for people who already have started to coach or are music teachers. And you maybe have a couple clients, or you've tried to start to get your offer out there, and you really want to have a sold out launch that gets you results, and you want to learn how to do it the right way, instead of being in this cycle of like, constantly creating a new offer and then trying to launch it and it doesn't go well. And then you create a new offer and you launch it and it doesn't go well. And that's just like a cycle of not getting the results that you need. Or simply just knowing like I'm doing this for the first time and I want to do it right. So whether you're like brand spanking new or you've done it before and you have a business but you want to learn how to really like take your launches to the next level, this is for you.
Amazing. And lastly, before we go, I would love to touch on scaling, because I think that this is something that you both do really well, is scaling your businesses. So, the reason why I think this is such a good topic to kind of end on today is I think that you both are such an incredible example of what is possible. So if you could, tell me, like, how do you go about, and when I talk about scaling, just in case you haven't heard that term before, basically it just means expanding, growing your business, making more money and making a bigger impact, but not necessarily have it draining more of your time. So Bree, like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing that you can do is get a solid launch plan down and run through it once. That's why in our program, we're going to run them all the way through their launch, because once you know how that went, and even if it was small, you'll have an idea of your numbers, which to me is the key to scaling, knowing what your numbers are as far as how many people you got into your launch, how many people converted. And then from there, you can scale knowing that generally you just, expand the number of people that you get in, and then you get more people into your program. So just based upon those original numbers that you create, you can make your launches bigger and bigger. Also, for me, a big thing that I will be talking about as well is with partnerships and collabs like we're doing right now. I have had so many partnerships and collabs over the years that have helped me grow my audience. And, that's a way beyond like you can always do paid ads, right? But if you don't want to invest that money, if you're feeling a little uncomfortable about that, one of the best ways that you can scale is by partnering up with other people and either going on their podcasts or, doing like joint ventures with them, or just expanding your sphere of influence with different people that can maybe get the word out for what you're doing, and you can do the same for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's also, a lot of people would make the mistake of like, oh, I'm going to just, number one, start out with a course. Number two, start out with a course and try to launch it with ads instead of actually getting that proof first off the bat that like you can launch it grassroots, without any paid ads, and you can get people to join and they can get results. And that is really important right off the bat to kind of do it right the first time, because that's also going to inform how you then scale and automate. And interestingly enough, you can then start to scale by introducing other offers. Like Bree has her membership, which allows her to kind of like pool all of her clients together and have a lot more time on her hands so she can grow her business in that way. I scaled more so by doing like higher level group coaching programs. So I needed less clients, but I would charge more because it was like a high level mastermind, right? So there's different ways you can go about growing your business, operating in your business, and it's just going to depend on your preferences, your audience, on all of those things. But that makes it really fun to figure out, all right, let me like have this launch go really well. Let me work really hard on it, see how it goes, take the data, and then move on for there to decide like, how do you want to do it next time? What's the next offer you want to integrate? Those kinds of things.
Yeah. And for the record, I barely did any ads when I started out, like barely any, if any.
I still don't.
I know, I still don't really either. I'm trying to like go into it a little bit now. But yes, you don't need, like, honestly, you just do not need a lot of money to start a business. Like, you need free Google Suite so you can plan out your whatever you're planning. And I'm sure, you both are going to teach, the bare essentials that you need to start any business, and it is lean. It is not much at all. So Katie and Bree, thank you so, so much for coming on the Being in a Band podcast. I wanted to end, actually, I've got one last thing. I thought it'd be super cute if we all go around and say, what is the best thing about working for yourself?
Oh my gosh. To me, it's all about the time freedom. Like, I have the weirdest working time. Katie can attest to this because we're on like different time zones by 3 hours. And it's like we almost work the same time. Because
I feel like you work earlier than me.
I do. I get up at 4 a.m. because that's when my body wakes up, right? But you can't you could, but it'd be weird if you went into an office at 4 a.m. and you tried to work that out with your boss. Like, I'm going to leave it 2 because I'm tired by then, so I love that I can do that. I can work around my kids' schedule, which has all been crazy because of, COVID and online school and regular school switching out. And now, I'm moving in a week, and I can just completely take off a week and just be like, I'm moving and I'm not doing any work this week. So that's what I love about it.
Ditto to that. Like, today my dog turned 1 year old, and I literally just took a hour break in the middle of the day to go buy him birthday treats. So,
oh my
God.
Ziggy, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ziggy. There will be photos on Instagram. You guys can all look at it. Ziggy Z the Cavapoo on Instagram.
Oh my God, I didn't realize he had his own.
But what's actually funny is, for me, I feel like I also had, when I was working full time, I had daily migraines, a ton of anxiety, so much allergies, and so many issues, really so many health issues that, to be totally honest with you, once I quit my job and started working for myself, a lot of those resolved. And my full-time job was a good job. I liked the people. I wasn't really stressed at it, but something about being able to control your life and being able to, take breaks and organize your schedule in a way that works for you, like Bree was saying, it really does take. Now listen, there's an added stress that comes with managing your own business, but in a lot of ways, it just allows you to operate more in a way that works for you. And that added happiness and reduced stress from the job, it improved my quality of life so much.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you both, but only for the sake of adding something different other than having control over my time. And yeah, you're right. Just what Bree was saying, we all work on different body clocks, and I'm not a morning person. Going to a job at 9 a.m. never worked for me. I am definitely a night owl. So yeah, but to, say something that hasn't already been said, I would say waking up every day and having the ability to create and thinking to myself, what do I want to create today? Whether that be music, whether that be, I really enjoy creating graphics for my biz or for my band or whatever. So just having that flexibility of being sometimes I'll wake up and be like, oh shit, I need to record a podcast today. And then I'll be like, oh crap, I didn't release a podcast last week. I've definitely got to do it today. And then I'm like, wait, I get to record a podcast today. That is literally what is stressing me out right now. And I'm like, it's fine. Relax. So yeah. But thank you both again. Appreciate it. And once again, I will leave all the links down below to the free challenge, and definitely we'll keep an eye out for the Out to Launch course, because it's definitely something to look into if you're wanting the freedom lifestyle also.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you so much.